Russia-Ukraine Live News: attack targets Russia's Black Sea HQ. A drone was shot down over the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in annexed Crimea, the second such attempted attack in less than a month. Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed that independent inspectors can travel to the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine. On second anniversary of Navalny poisoning, Scholz slams Russia's clampdown on speech. Olaf Scholz has praised Alexei Navalny on the second anniversary of the jailed Russian opposition politician's attempted poisoning. The German chancellor also criticized Russia's clampdown on freedom of speech, Reuters reported. The war that Russia started against Ukraine is a war that also has consequences for Russia, Scholz said in a video message on Saturday. Freedom and democracy were already endangered before. But now, freedom of expression is much more endangered and many fear to say their own opinion. He said it was important to remember Navalny because he was fighting for his belief that the war that Russia started against Ukraine is a war that also has consequences for Russia. Navalny is serving an 11.5-year sentence after being found guilty of parole violations, fraud and contempt of court charges. He says all the charges were fabricated as a pretext to jail him and thwart his political ambitions. The 46-year-old returned to Russia in 2021 from Germany where he had been treated for what Western laboratory tests showed was an attempt to poison him in Siberia with a Soviet-era nerve agent. Russia denies trying to kill him. U.S. to buy about 150,000 metric tons of grain from Ukraine in coming weeks. The United States is planning to buy about 150,000 metric tons of grain from Ukraine in the next few weeks for an upcoming shipment of food aid from ports no longer blockaded by war, the World Food Programme chief has told the Associated Press. The final destinations for the grain are not confirmed and discussions continue, WFP's chief David Beasley said. But the planned shipment, one of several the union agency that fights hunger is pursuing, is more than 6 times the amount of grain that the first WFP-arranged ship from Ukraine is now carrying toward people in the Horn of Africa at risk of starvation. The keenly awaited first aid ship from Ukraine is carrying 23,000 metric tons of grain, enough to feed 1.5 million people on full rations for a month, Beasley said. It is expected to dock in Djibouti on August 26 or 27, and the wheat is supposed to be shipped overland to northern Ethiopia, where millions of people in the Tigray, Afar and Amhara regions have faced not only drought but deadly conflict. Ukraine was the source of half the grain that WFP bought last year to feed 130 million hungry people. Russia and Ukraine signed agreements with the UN and the Turkish government last month to enable exports of Ukrainian grain for the first time since Russia's invasion in February. But the slow reopening of Ukraine's ports and the cautious movement of cargo ships across the mined Black Sea won't solve the global food security crisis, Beasley said. He warned that richer countries must do much more to keep grain and other assistance flowing to the hungriest parts of the world, and he named names. Zelensky says Ukraine will retaliate against every Russian strike. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has promised that every Russian strike on his country would be answered. In a video address to the nation, Zelensky said, "We will not leave any of these Russian strikes unanswered. We will establish the identity of every occupier who gives orders and executes these strikes at cities. And we will bring them all to justice in one way or another. No murderer will hide." Attacks rock Russian-held areas far from Ukraine war front lines. Russia has reported new Ukrainian drone attacks, a day after explosions erupted near military bases in Russian-held areas of Ukraine and Russia itself. Apparent displays of Kyiv's growing ability to pummel Moscow's assets far from front lines, Reuters reported. The latest incidents followed huge blasts last week at an airbase in Russian-annexed Crimea. In a new assessment, a Western official said that incident had rendered half of Russia's Black Sea Naval Aviation Force useless in a stroke. Russia's RIA and TASS news agencies, citing a local official in Crimea, said it appeared Russian anti-aircraft forces had been in action near the western Crimean port of Eupatoria on Friday night. Video posted by a Russian website showed what appeared to be a ground-to-air missile hitting a target. Reuters was unable immediately to confirm the video's veracity. TASS cited a local official as saying Russian anti-aircraft forces knocked down 6 Ukrainian drones sent to attack the town of Novokakhovka, east of the city of Kherson. Ukraine says retaking Kherson is one of its main priorities. Separately, an official in Crimea said defenses there had downed an unspecified number of drones over the city of Sevastopol. The Ukrainian armed forces treated the Russians to a magical evening, said Sariklan, a member of Kherson's regional council disbanded by Russian occupation forces. The night before, multiple explosions had been reported in Crimea, which Moscow seized in 2014, including near Sevastopol, the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, as well as at Kerch near a huge bridge to Russia dug inside Russia. 2 villages had been evacuated after explosions at an ammunition dump in Belgorod province, more than 100 kilometers from territory controlled by Ukrainian forces.